This is the Honor Magic 7 Pro, Honor's 2025 flagship to kickstart the year. But there's a lot of important things that we have to consider when it comes to a new flagship, because the one thing that's on everybody's mind, which I kind of predict, is probably whether it's worth even switching from last year's model, which would be the Magic6 Pro. And the likes of the Magic6 Pro has proved to us that brands like Honor really know what consumers want, priced at a price range that a lot of people can accept. I will be breaking down the video into several digestible segments. First would be the daily life segment, followed by the camera and video segment. And of course, at the last part would be, what kind of value and audience is the likes of the Magic7 Pro for. Let's immediately kick off with comparing it with the Magic6 Pro from last year. So as you know, it's largely the same when it comes to the screen. It's a 1 to 120 Hz LTPO AMOLED screen with the same pulse width modulation tech that Honor loves to put on their phones. And that's pretty amazing because when you're reading content in the dark, you're not having that flickering, you're not having that ghosting when you're reaching low brightness levels, and that's very comforting. And this is actually the most appealing for people with sensitive eyes, especially towards things like the pulse width modulation spectrum, and they have difficulties in reading content due to that extremely high sensitivity, which will affect their vision in the long run. So to have this implementation of pulse width modulation tech onto their screens is a big move. And although that is largely like a niche problem, it's a really good thing to have. And I don't see too many companies making smartphones doing this kind of thing, having that kind of level of consideration for people like that suffering from pulse width modulation sensitivities. So next up would be the chipset. It's a Snapdragon 8 Elite versus the Gen 3. The performance gains here, compared to last year's chipset, which is already good, I would tell you right now that, if you're not gaming and you're not taking too many photos, it's barely noticeable because the phone is already nice and smooth as it is in operation. You can only really see it in, I guess, gaming, and it's so dependent on whether the game developers have factored that in yet, because it's not like you have to chase chipsets constantly to get the best performance. Optimization is still equally important in the game. And as for cameras, both systems still use a 50 megapixel camera sensor with another 50 megapixel supplement. And right now, the big difference here are the telephoto systems. So the Magic6 Pro has introduced to us the 180 megapixel telephoto sensor, which was amazing. It was just so downright sharp, it was so downright fast in taking all sorts of photos, especially street photography, that it was quite impressive. And this year, the Magic7 Pro is fitted with a 200 megapixel telephoto camera with a 3x optical zoom level. You can take up to 3x of zoom on a hardware level, so it is native to the lens system itself and it would look completely lossless. But beyond that, it's going to be digital and it will be using the new Honor Image Engine 3.0, which will be using generative AI to fill up lost detail when you're using a digital zoom, which is essentially a crop from the main sensor. And that was also very impressive, although it's not as impressive as lossless because that's the general rule of thumb. The battery is also getting a little bump from 5600 milliamps to 5850 milliamps, and so does the charging speed. So right now the Honor Magic7 Pro gets 100 watts of wired charging and 80 watts of wireless charging, whereas the Magic6 Pro gets 80 watts of wired charging and 66 watts of wireless charging. So that is still pretty fast. You're barely taking half an hour to charge this to full, which is a plus for me. So now in the performance segment is very simple. You can definitely rely on the Magic7 Pro to do anything. It's the Snapdragon 8 Elite and it will play everything. And you know what? I think, this may not be a dedicated gaming smartphone, but should you wish to play AAA titles on this, you're definitely going to be in for a good experience because, I would actually designate this more to be a more camera-centric phone because of the system. Variable aperture and everything. But that being said, gaming performance, solid. I just really play Zenless Zone Zero all the time and I get to max my graphics and FPS up and play continued long sessions such as diving into Hollow Zero, which is like a pretty much half an hour-ish commitment to 45 minutes commitment. It stayed pretty stable. I didn't get any frame drops. And a lot of things just simply look good because that screen is a gorgeous AMOLED. And at 120 Hz, there's There is nothing that will stop you from having a good gaming experience on a phone like this. The screens are just pretty good. Honor is at the top of their game when it comes to displays, but they comboed it with an excellent speaker system that includes a subwoofer inside, which was a really big surprise because this is probably the best pair of speakers on a smartphone that I've ever gotten to listen to and review. So if you're somebody that really wants to seriously watch videos or listen to music from your phone without connecting it to everything and just relying on speakers, this is a pretty big deal, and you have to consider that because some people are just simply like that, and I don't judge. As for battery life, it's kind of depends on you. I mean, for someone like me, if I'm just on a very light day just texting people and scrolling on social media, 2 days, absolutely no issue. But on my heavier days where I dedicate days to go out in the street to take street photography and listen to music, play my games, and be on very long video calls, you can still get home with like 20% left in the tank. So you get a very full intensive day with this. And the best part of it is it charges back up in just half an hour. You go home with 20%, charge it for 30-ish minutes, and plug it out and go to sleep with your phone. Don't charge it overnight anymore. People just don't do that anymore. Okay, so we're moving on to the cameras. The main camera sensor is pretty much everything to me because this 50 megapixel sensor has variable aperture. So you get a variable aperture of f1.4, which is quite bright, all the way to 2.0, which I guess is acceptable. And I guess if you want to go any darker, which means the blades have to go smaller, I guess you'll just have to play with exposure from that point. And taking photos across all camera sensors have been, I would say, just absolutely reliable because the detail is amazing. The shutter is extremely fast. Fast-moving objects can't escape this, even at a zoom range. And my favorite part is taking portrait photos. You get the Arcot colors, you still get your vibrant, your color, and your black and white. The process is really good, and combined with fast shutter speeds, you'll be capturing street photography like an absolute pro in no time, as long as you keep practicing. But this is the main point of a phone like this. It's such a camera-centric phone with flagship specs that just gives you an overall good experience. This is an excellent all-rounder, but I would say the edge is still towards the camera. Even though I would say that portrait is the main game here, it's still versatile enough to take a variety of subjects. So if you're going to be taking pictures of buildings, you're going to be taking pictures of animals across very far ranges, you're still pretty much good to go, because if you're not using Arcot modes and just using the default modes and just relying on just the native color space that the camera prefers to shoot in, I would say that the colors are actually still pretty good. The dynamic range is on point, and everything seems to manage itself quite well. So this image engine, yeah, pretty reliable in that respect. And shooting video, I would say that for video, shooting in 4K is quite the cinch. It can be pretty stable with the right settings, and I would say that the video quality is just okay. It's very dependent on lighting, and I would say that I feel like I might be able to see better performing ones throughout the year, because this is the start of the year, and I guess this is probably where the fun kind of stops. Don't let it dissuade you, just get some good lighting and you're good to go. And now for the fun bits. So AI is a pretty big part of this phone. There are factors such as AI deepfake detection, where your phone will be proactively monitoring your video calls to see if this person is impersonating someone else. That's a very big safety feature that I don't see anyone doing right now. And as much as I kind of feel that it's a problem that a lot of people are not going to have, as long as they're vigilant to some degree, it's a nice to have, because you can't personally guarantee that every single person on earth is aware that they're talking to somebody that has manipulated their face. So a phone like this, trying to combat a problem like that, seems to be a pretty small thing. But we don't know what the future holds when it comes to the AI front, but I would say in my region, which is Southeast Asia, it's getting more and more apparent. So this is a very nice feature that the phone has already come with, and that's something I really appreciate. And as usual, the other suite of Honor AI features such as Magic Portal is still there, and AI interpretation. It has a very competent AI approach when it comes to translating languages in real time, and the other things such as summarizing your notes and using prompts to generate note formats for you in the Notes app as an AI feature. I think everybody is already doing that, so they're definitely not the first well, so it's a nice thing to have. And I think we're still at a stage where it's a little too early to see a lot of people using it day to day. As a society, it's not rendered to be a full, essential, must-have, die need to use feature just yet. So I think we'll just have to give that little part a bit more time. So that kind of wraps up the general consensus of what I think the Magic 7 Pro is. But I think the more important question is like, does it hold its value? It starts at 45.99 ringgit for the 12 gig plus 512 gig variant, and it tops off at 16 1TB, and that's about for like over 5,000 ringgit. As a flagship, these are the types of prices that are quite expected. It's just a matter of whether its features speak to you on a level of that value, whether you can place those features on a value that high or low according to your own personal preference. And I have to say, if you're somebody that just really wants a very fast, snappy camera phone with excellent color rendition, excellent detail for street photography, and extremely fast shutter speeds, this is the right call to make. It's a very good all-rounder. You want to play games in between, definitely. This may not be a gaming phone. People actually do dedicate resources to buy dedicated gaming phones as a secondary, but if you just wanted to rely on one phone to do everything for you, this is it. This is something I would consider to be a very recommendable phone for 2025. But if you're on a Magic 6 Pro, you really have a tough call to make because you're just paying more money for 20 more megapixels on your telephoto, a new chipset, a bigger battery capacity, and I guess an all-new design if that's a thing for you. But if I were you, I would still stick with my Magic 6 Pro. Or if you're somebody that's not ready to commit that amount of money to buy the latest flagship this year, the Magic 6 Pro is still a pretty good phone now, even though it came out last year, and that's something that is a thing. People would be waiting for the new models to come out just to buy last year's model at a cheaper price, and the Magic 6 Pro falls right under that radar for me, and I still recommend that phone till this day. So thank you guys for watching. I'm Zen the Geek, and I'll see you guys in the next video.